Hey everyone, it is Mica again, and today I want to talk about the class Bard in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, which we may see at launch or soon after. I mean, it's kind of been hinted at, but it hasn't been confirmed, so don't get your hopes up too high. And I'm going to look to see on how it's exactly going to fit in the grand scheme of things. Now, before I begin, I gotta reiterate, I really do, that my perspective may be a little different from other people's who broach the same subject, because unlike them, I've never played Everquest, and I know it's blasphemy and it's evil and yada yada yada. But I was a Final Fantasy XI player back in those days, and that's gonna either hurt or help me in all videos like this, but it really all depends on how similar they make Pantheon to Everquest. But also, because it needs to be said, Pantheon isn't Everquest. I know, don't hurt me, everybody wants it to be, but it's not. So what I'm going to do instead of comparing it to Everquest Bard is compare it to the class that's most likely going to be most comparable to in Pantheon, the Enchanter. Right now, the Enchanter is the only class we have that's primarily a crowd control and utility-based class, so it would make sense that Bard would be their counterpart instead of some crazy, overpowered, jack-of-all-trades class, which is kind of what I heard they were in Everquest. Having multiple magic users, healers, tanks, and melee, I mean, why wouldn't you have more than one crowd control class? I mean, I don't know. It's just the way I think. To me, it's all about having options. And if they introduce Bard as a utility crowd control class, they're going to have to keep them in balance with the Enchanter, because if they don't, if they make one better than the other in any real way, the one that's not as good is simply going to die. I mean, why would you take a Enchanter if Bard is better or vice versa? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the four aspects of Enchanter as we know it in Pantheon, which includes buffs, debuffs, DPS, and crowd control, and then speculate on how Bard may compare and how they could possibly work together. I'm also going to use the abilities listed on the official site instead of including the ones on the wiki, because the way what I believe is at this moment, the official site is just, well, it's just more official. So the first thing I want to look at is buffs and debuffs, because the Enchanter is, for the most part, really lacking in these two departments. All the Enchanter has for buffs on the official site are mostly aimed at magic users, with spell speed boosts, mana regens, and the removal of ability costs being their bread and butter. And that last one, the removal of ability costs, I mean, could, in theory, honestly work for everybody, but will likely most be felt in spell costs. I mean, that would be huge for healers in places where lots of raises are needed. And this leads me to believe that bards are going to be the same, but for more non-mage types, increasing the damage of physical melee or range attacks, increasing speed, strength, stamina, defense, all that fun stuff. Kind of like you did, and sometimes still do, see them doing in real life. Or raising resistance to elements through force field, something that was teased in Final Fantasy XIV and looked cool as hell, but for some reason we never got. The big problem with this is that healers can also do these things, so Bard is really going to need to excel at them. And I could also see them having a mana sauna. I mean, Enchanter does have multiple ways to replenish mana, so giving a Bard just one isn't going to be too outlandish. The Enchanter's debuffs, however, are aimed at more of a mixed crowd, with strength and agility reduction for non-mages, silences for mages, and not only the reduction of damage, but the ability to render all attacks and abilities completely ineffective. And that last one is honestly going to be pretty damn hard to beat and could be pretty damn OP depending on the situation. And frankly, they should just give Bard something comparable so that one ability isn't just so useful that everybody wants Enchanter and no one wants to take a Bard. So again, I'm thinking that the Bard may have the ability to affect the stats and everything that Enchanters cannot, like lowering intelligence and charisma, slowing down attack speeds of enemies, and using distractions to reduce their accuracy or perhaps even their chances at critical hits. With the Bard and the Enchanter both affecting battle in different ways through buffs and debuffs, and affecting different stats, that would give them each a place and even the ability to work in harmony if they're both present. And as Enchanters at the moment are more of a boon to mage parties, Bards could easily fill that role for non-mage parties, creating a balance that would not put primarily mage-based parties at an advantage. When it comes to DPS, I'm not going to look so much at weapon damage, because having a Bard or an Enchanter in the front lines just strikes me as odd. To me, those are always jobs that should be in the back doing something like strumming strings, and it makes no sense, in my opinion, for them to be up close and stabby for any reason. The big problem is that we don't really know how much DPS an Enchanter is going to have. I mean, we do know there's a few spells that are dots, and for those of you not in the know, that is damage over time. But there's this whole illusion business that remains a mystery. The descriptors do drop a few clues about mimicry and whatnot, but again, we just don't know. Enchanters will also have charms, which kind of sounds like it's going to be kind of beast mastery, letting you use mobs as temporary pets to do your bidding. So giving this to Bard 2, I mean, that would just kind of be redundant. What I would personally love to see for bards is a type of spell singer. Let bards cast some sort of destructive magic with their instruments. You could even make different instrument types be more efficient with different elemental energies, but I'll get back to instruments later. It's very seldom you see bard as a mage type in MMOs that can make it rain fireballs with the strum of their harp, and that will be freaking cool. But the big job the Enchanter has, and the direction the bulk of their abilities are aimed in, is of course crowd control, and then Enchanter spells are mostly mesmerizing and charm spells, which is kind of a bummer since bards are known for just being so damn charming. I mean, there is a reason there's a million bard seduction memes out there. And creatively speaking, I would love bard to not have the same type of crowd control. I mean, two classes that can both mez and charm kind of seems a little boring, especially when they're their only two classes in that respective role. I mean, you wouldn't create two mages that can only use ice and fire and then just give them different weapons, animation, and names and send them on their way. You want to give each job a sense of uniqueness that goes beyond aesthetics. So I'm going to just ignore charms and mez spells. I'm actually going to ignore illusions too, since enchanters can also use them. But what does that leave for bard? I mean, we do have seduction, which bards are known for, but do we really want to go out and seduce wildlife? I mean, do we really want to seduce a bunny? Can't we just leave that to Final Fantasy XIV players?
Oh no, you didn't!
But seriously, what does that leave bard? I mean, there are sleeps. Lullabies are a thing after all, and they could also use something like distractions or fear, confusion, entangles, pushbacks. I mean, anything that can basically be caused by sound or force instead of manipulation. You could also incorporate dots into sleeps, or something like a song that causes nightmares. So there's a plethora of things that bard could do that would be unique to Enchanter. The big thing though is keeping them in balance and giving them their own identities. I keep stressing the identities part because it would just be so easy to make them carbon copies of each other, and like I said, that would just be kind of boring. You really want uniqueness in classes that go beyond aesthetics. In my opinion, that's what makes them fun to play. If you don't give them unique characteristics, you may as well just give everything to the same job. In the end, I think bard would work great as a spell singer linked to elemental magics. And you could even incorporate their instruments in this, like have drums enhance earth-based spells, strings enhance water, horns enhance fire, and winds affect, well, I mean, obviously winds. Even a voice could be used to some extent, or in place of instruments, but with maybe some penalties or a lesser effect. Just let Enchanter manipulate minds and cast illusions, and let bard manipulate the very energy around them with melodies and vibration. Let them use melodies to cripple or burn, sleep or stun. It would be a great new take on bard, at least in my opinion. But what do you think bard is going to be like in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen? Do you have any grand ideas or unique directions you think bard could go in? Do you have any hopes or fears for bard in Pantheon? Or do you just want it to be a carbon copy of the bard in Everquest? Like I said, I don't know what that is. I never played the game. So let me know below, or just let me know on social media, which is also linked below. And while you're down there, hit subscribe. And as per the usual, it has been a hoot. Until next time, have fun.